is 2805848, and we do see several calls are attempting to come in, and we're doing our best to try to entertain your calls, but for some reason we're not able to come in. I heard a report coming from the Director of Tourism last night speaking about the idea of, in the area of tourism. I won't talk about all of that. I'll just talk about what I heard him say about these mega ships that the cruise industry had gone into, these huge, massive ships. And the word out at that time when these ships first came out is that they would stop coming to Belize because the tendering process that we were using of sending out small vessels and the people coming off the boats, getting on these small vessels and coming in to the mainland was not sustainable. That the cruise company were saying, we've gone beyond that, and so we're going to bypass Belize. Now, about 15 years ago, Mike Finstein recognized that idea and basically started to build an area wherein these ships were able to land. He conceptualized the stake bank as a way in which Belize could remain relevant in the cruise tourism, because these huge ships would have been passing Belize, and this was a time when the idea was to phase out small ships and to bring in mega ships. I heard also from the Director of Tourism that apparently there's a new thinking within the cruise industry to go from these mega ships back to smaller ships. But that's not our issue here. The issue is looking at what happened to this individual, Mike Finstein, who was promoting the idea of staying relevant in the industry, and he was at the top of his game during that period of time. He was one of those providers of that service to the industry. And so the investment in the stake bank was an idea that was relevant at the time. And I'm talking about more than a decade ago, where this investor decided, well, look, I'm going for it. I am going to create the opportunity. I can't do it there at the government's private port, but I can do it at an investment of which I will find the money and I will build it. So Mike Finstein went after establishing the idea of a stake bank. It was high stakes because it was hundreds of millions of dollars that would be brought in to try to conceptualize and build that project. And then we have to ask, what happened to that grand idea? The idea was to build an island, and in fact also to build a causeway, very similar to that causeway that you see in Florida, in Miami. If you've ever traveled in there, you see that they have a causeway where vehicles can go back and forth to some of the adjacent island. So this concept, this idea, which was very unique at the time, and had to go through NEAC and all of this because there was concern that, you know, it would have been hurting the manatee and etc. So it had to go through all these clearances, and finally was able to get the clearance and begin to do the actual breaking ground for this project. But then the stake bank project was killed. Was it because of environmental concerns? NEAC had passed its concerns. Was it because of political rivalry? We know there was a tossing back and forth because it started during the PUP time, then during the UDP time, and then back into the PUP time. Then we heard that there were all kinds of backroom mechanism that a member of cabinet was signing with another group in order to set up a rival port, etc. So one has to ask the question, we understand that there has to be competing economic interests because we're a free society like that. But this was a project that looked as though it would have been a star in Belize. It would have provided not only a place for these mega ships to be able to dock, but it would have also provided an entertainment park, a kind of a water park, a kind of a mini Disneyland kind of environment, where those who are Belizeans can also go across to State Bank and enjoy, or Port Coral as it was called, to enjoy the entertainment there. It would have been when you read the document and you see the project, you could see that this was it was a massive project that would have been of massive benefit not only to the cruise ship, but also to the entertainment value for Belizeans. It also provided an opportunity for the tour guides to be able to go out also on that causeway, pick up these individuals. Instead of them coming in on these small tenders, they would have been able to board the tour guide buses right there on the island, drive across on the causeway, visit the various sites that we have to offer here in Belize, get back safely, back on their cruise ship, and depart. So the concept itself was an ingenious concept, and it provided an opportunity that would be employment opportunities for a number of providers, and you're talking about hair braiders, artists, different individuals who were able to benefit from this project. So you have to ask the question, how did this end up in the debacle that it is in now, where the director of tourism is saying that these mega ships, which was planned for 15 years ago, I said, these mega ships is not something new. They started to come in about 15 years ago. And here you had a Belizean entrepreneur that was setting up the enabling environment to be able to capture that amount of ships coming in. I don't talk about Harvest Key and these other areas. I'm talking about right here in Belize District and Belize City, which would have provided employment opportunities to a deprived area, people who really, really need it. And why do I think that I am speaking up like this? Because we were, and when I say that, I'm talking about Nuri Muhammad and company, were hired by the State Bank project to bring in young males that were almost, you would say, unemployable because they had gotten jobs but they couldn't hold on to the jobs. They were not effective on the job. They were being dismissed because of weed smoking on the job, fighting on the job, etc. And so we provided a formula of how we could train these young males and provide a curriculum, if you want to call it that, that would have streamlined their focus on the opportunities that they had, the skills that they needed, and we would work through that for a 2 to 3 week training process. Well, we did that. We were hired and we did that training. And we were able to train 80 of these young males. And Mr. Feinstein, as promised, hired all of them. And so they became the early developers, meaning hard work people, in the State Bank project. And after a year of them being out there, they only lost maybe maximum about 10 of those guys, meaning 70 of them remain employed until the project closed down. What I'm saying is that here were several unique opportunities. One, an innovative idea in the tourism industry. Innovative not only in being able to make access for those mega ships, but also to make access for hair braiders, people who do artwork, people who are tour guides, etc., would have been able to benefit from that project. And then he did something that no other large private sector company has done. He hired the worst of the worst. He gave an opportunity to the so-called unestablished and was able to prove that that opportunity that he gave to these youths was able to be beneficial to them changing their lives and bringing home honest money for their families. It was an excellent opportunity and something that could have been built on, where other private sector could have looked and said, wow, so when training like that can prepare these guys, let's try to do the same thing over here at these other private sector companies. Welcome, caller. Let's hope you can get through. Can you hear us? Yeah, no success there. So I'm saying that the Stake Bank project, which is I can't say it's dead, but it is in litigation. It's going to be tied up in litigation. I won't get into the details of that because some of it is clearly above my head in clear understanding the legalese involved there. But what I know is a project that could have been a star for Belize is dead. And now we have the tourism saying what we need now is to have a dock where we are able to entertain these cruise ships coming in to be able to benefit from the beauty of our tourist product. So, you know, kudos to Mike Finstein, his wife, his family, for the investment that they've put in. I hope that they don't get disappointed by all the difficulties that they're having in trying to get that project off the ground. It was a great project. It remains a great project. And unfortunately, we don't see it advancing. I don't know what might happen in the future, but all the best to Mr. Finstein and his family for that